This is the Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast as a service to the Nebraska Greats Foundation, which serves former collegiate athletes facing medical needs and financial challenges. Your tax-deductible contribution will change the life of a former college sports hero. Please give online at negreats.org. And now, here's your host, Brett Wetton.
Welcome to the Nebraska Greats Foundation. I'm your host, Brett Wetton, and I'm joined here also with Monte Kratzenstein. And we have the pleasure of being at the Tom's Dinsdale golf outing today. The Nebraska Greats is putting on. And so first, let's do some housekeeping before we get into a wonderful conversation with Jared Crick, our guest today. We are family. That's our motto. So any former letter winner from any of the colleges or universities in the state of Nebraska that have a medical or financial need, we're here to help them. And we've helped a bunch of former athletes, student athletes with their medical/financial needs. And so 3 ways you can help. You can donate. You can go to our website, negreats.org. Share any of our content from our social media sites. And then lastly, if you have a former teammate that's in need of something and has too much pride to ask, send them our way, and we'll be happy to take care of them. So without further ado, we'd love to introduce Jared Crick. Jared, how are you today?
I'm doing good, guys. How are we doing?
Great. You ready to do some golf?
Yeah, I'm ready to do something. I don't know if it's going to be called golf or not, but enjoy the day at least, meet some good people, and hang out with this good bunch here. It's always a good time.
So Monty, I'm gonna pipe you in here. So this is our format, Jared. This is a conversation. This is not an interview. We just want to have kind of a quick run through of your career and what you're doing right now in life. So I'm gonna hand it over to Monty, and let's start.
Well, first of all, I'm always amazed when we do these sorts of things because Nebraska is one of those places, and Jared being from Cozad, Nebraska, the first thing we do is we start talking about the old days, right? And you talk about, I'm a Gothenburg guy, and he's a Cozad guy, 10 minutes apart, and Brett, you're a Geneva guy, so we're all small town guys that somehow, some way made our way into the world. But I think with this conversation, I've just got questions, Jared. First of all, the question is, dude, what are you doing to your body? You
looking good.
I mean, there's no romantic feelings going on here whatsoever. But what in the world? Some of these guys get huge after they get done playing. You kind of went the other direction. What's up?
It's funny because I look at myself in the mirror every day, and I don't see a different person than what I was 6 months ago. But yeah, so I've lost 45 pounds around there, and really none of it was planned. I didn't have a goal to lose any weight. I just kind of wanted to get healthy on the inside, so I cut out the alcohol, the vices, and just started eating a little bit better. And funny enough, like, weight just kind of fell off.
Did you have to work really hard? I know you played tight end when you were in high school, so you had to really bulk up to play at the high college Division I level, and then of course the NFL. Was it a challenge for you to bulk up and keep that weight on?
Yeah, it was impossible. So I went into the U probably 240 at the highest, and I think my frame's only meant to hold about that. So yeah, I had to do all the protein shakes, eat like 9 times a day my first couple years down there, and I got up to about 280 and just felt terrible. I mean, just awful. Couldn't move, was getting injured every 2 seconds with just random small pulls and this and that. So got into a little bit. I hung around probably 72 was about my average playing at Nebraska. Got to the league, went down to Houston, sweated my what off every single day. It was hard to stay above 70. So playing 3-tech in the NFL at sub 270 pounds, that was a chore. Went to Denver to the altitude, same kind of deal, just burning calories faster you can put them in. Wow. So very undersized. But yeah, it's one of them deals where it was just impossible. Like I said, I could eat everything I wanted, eat all the ice cream, eat all the junk, go to Taco Bell every night, and I'd still weigh in at the scale, every morning, 271. By the end of practice, I was back down to 264. So,
wow. Well, geez, Jared, I wish I could eat Taco Bell at night and lose the weight. I'm the opposite way. I've actually gained weight since playing. But so we just want to do kind of run through of your career. So let's skip from high school. Let's go right at your time at Nebraska. Are there any really memorable moments that you say to yourself, hey, man, that was a great moment for me personally? It's a great moment for our team that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, and ironically, it was followed by the worst moment of my college career, and that was when we beat Texas in 2009. The clock said 0-0-0, so we're thinking we won the Big 12 championship. Just total elation. I mean, just a complete euphoric moment for our entire team. And then refs get together, start talking about it, and then they put another second on the clock. We lose by a last-second field goal. So the highest of highs was met by the lowest of lows, and that was after that. I learned to keep it steady. Don't get too high, don't get too low. And people had always told us that before. Just keep it steady. Maintain. Didn't really know what they meant at the time, but after that moment I did, because like I said, you'll get disappointed a lot, and then you can be pleasantly surprised, but that was tough. But every single day with those guys, whether the day I walked in to the day I left, every moment in the locker room, you guys both know, you can't replicate it in the real world. I haven't found that anywhere else yet, except for things like this, where we can sit here, we can talk to each other frankly and talk football and BS a little bit. This is about as close to a locker room environment that I've been in since I've been out. So
I think we have kind of three different generations of age. I was in the late 80s, and Brett, you were after that, and then Jared, and I 100% agree with you, because when you go out into the real world, right, and college football isn't the real world, and NFL football isn't the real world. A lot of people have a lot of struggles to find something that is competitive, that has that sort of camaraderie. If you can find a business or a company or a team of people that you can work with that provides that's great. But I know a lot of people that really, really struggle with that. Former athletes that just say, they lose that hunger because they can't do what drove them for so long.
Well, you're in that environment too, where you have the coaches and you have your training table, you have your athletic trainers, everything's just kind of put together for you, your lifting schedule, and then all of a sudden you leave and you're kind of independent. So, maybe a quick question for you, Jared, is do you miss the process of it? Because, as you know, camp's getting ready to start up, and I always get that feeling every year, like, oh, man, it's going to be hot. It's 2 days for 2 weeks. It's all that jazz. What say you?
Yeah, it's definitely awkward, and it's getting a little bit easier now that I'm becoming more and more removed from the game. But yeah, definitely that year after, right before COVID. It was kind of like my body clock was revving up, like those nerves, that anxiousness was kicking back in, because camp's a tough deal. In college you're obviously you're used to being away from family because you're at school, but you're not married yet or anything like that. You don't have kids, so you're just here we go, just gonna bash my face in every day for a month and a half until we get into real games. And then you get into the NFL. Well, a lot of guys go different places, like their family stays in wherever they're playing. But you're off for a month in a different state sometimes, practicing against other teams, or your camp's just at a college in, a different part of the state. So that was one thing that I was, because I had been with my wife, my whole time in the NFL, and every time I went to camp, it's like, well, see you in a month. And that was kind of hard. And
sure. Once
we got married, now that we're kids, I'm sitting there thinking, like, could I do that now? And obviously I think I could, because, I love football. But it's like, man, I just had a newborn, tried, leaving my wife with him for a month and all by herself, and me away from my family. That's tough. And
well, it's priorities, right?
Yeah.
And all of our priorities certainly change, and that's another challenge that people have, because your transition through life, through college and the NFL and the career and whatnot. I know we don't have an extended version of this podcast, but there's two or three things to me that I want to talk about at some point, and I think we'll probably talk more at some point about this too. But you had the opportunity, obviously, play at the highest level possible, but you had the opportunity to play alongside two of the greatest defensive linemen probably to ever play the game, and Ndamukong Suh, arguably one of the best defensive linemen to ever play college football, and obviously we know what he's done in the NFL, and then of course J.J. Watt playing for the Texans and so on. Can you, first of all, I'm not going to say what was that like, but give us some comments about playing next to those guys, because frankly you thrived in that environment. They probably brought you up to that level, but at the same time, you helped them a ton too with the way you did things.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully there's a lot of kids listening, because one thing that all those guys, and not just J.J. Suh, but DeMarcus Ware, I played with him, probably one of the best pass rushers to ever play the game, and then Von Miller. One characteristic all those guys have together, they got exactly out of it what they put in. Like, people don't understand, like, they see JJ on TV, for example, and they just see all the good things he does and this and that. Well, they don't see him up at the facility at like 4 a.m.
Wow.
with a key card because he's the first one in the building, doing his stretches, doing his lifts, watching film, hours before the rest of us got in there. And then he's the last guy to leave. So like he would be there till 11 o'clock at night doing the same thing, just getting rehab, getting another workout in. Same thing with DeMarcus. He was always watching film. I'd get at the stadium, he'd be in the linebacker room, and you could see he had 3 cups of coffee gone already, working on his fourth. So he had been there a while, watching film, watching the same thing over. He'd be, Crick, come in, watch this. And we'd watch the same offensive tackle. It's like, dude, I'm a 3-tech. I'm not going to be going against this guy. It was like, well, here's the games we can run against this guy. So we'd sit there for an hour before meetings, and we'd just talk about running pass rush games. The most simplest thing, once you get to that level is pass rush games. Everybody should know it like the back of their hand. Well, we're sitting there talking about different ways we can tinker with it, just based off one guy. Same thing with Vaughn, same thing with Sue in college. I'd be wanting to go eat, 9 o'clock at night. Sue would keep me up in the D-line room, and we'd just be watching K-State, Colorado, Texas, just week after week. So there's not a surprise. There's no magic potion that these guys took to be as great as they are. They put in the work every single day, and not just during the season. During the off season, they're doing the same thing. They're getting their workout in early in the morning. They're eating right. They're doing everything XYZ to be and maintain that high level.
How many guys did you play with? I don't need a number, but there's obviously some guys that were so talented that never did those things. Either they're off the field activities got in the way, or they just weren't able to put in the work. Obviously you saw some of those guys too, huh?
Oh yeah, and it's they still had their flashes here and there, but yeah, if they would have just, and I don't want to name any names because some of them might turn out to actually have pretty decent careers at the end of the day, but
that's for another episode. Yeah. We'll go down the list on another episode. We'll name names.
We got your back, Jared.
Yeah, but you just see them like, gosh, man, like you can be great. Like you can be one of the guys that in 50 years they talk about. And, they just rather be at the bars every night, or they just rather, sleep in and miss the, morning meetings, and they just have that nonchalant attitude where, I've already made it. I don't have to do this and that because where I was drafted. And it's like, well, that's your call, man. I'm a grinder. Like I was coming in off an injury, didn't get drafted very high. I'm underweight. I'm undersized. Like give me your physique or give me your speed, give me your agility, and I'll put it to work for you. But
right,
it's just one of them things. But if they don't want it for themselves, that's on them.
And there's a pattern to everything, right? You watch a tackle long enough. I was an offensive tackle. I had my tells on things and where I shift my weight and where to hit. I always try to hit early, right? So let's talk about that strategy because all of us have watched thousands of hours of film. How is that transferred into what are you doing these days? What are you doing for work? Are you able to kind of take some of those things you learned and apply them?
We're going to find out. So I just got my insurance license to sell insurance. And
congrats.
Yeah, so yesterday, as of yesterday, I think I'm official. So it won't be too much longer. I'll be able to get to work. And so it'll be one of them deals. I know the work ethic's going to be there. The grinding it out's going to be there. Getting out and about talking to people, that's not going to be. But it'll be interesting to see, what I can translate. What I can bring from the game of football into the insurance world, or so I don't know. You guys could probably help me out a little more than what I could tell you right now, but it'll be one of the things. I guess we'll find out. But I know definitely just the work ethic.
I want Brett Wetton, who has, in my opinion, has transferred from athleticism to business world. I want him to give your 30-second elevator speech to Jared Crick as far as advice in the business world, because you've done that for me a couple times.
Well, I'll tell you this: it's fun. I don't know Jared personally. I'm getting to know him better over time, but we're in this fraternity, right? Because we played together. And what I tell you, man, I love all the things. The staying power, right? It's doing the little things. Writing a thank you letter, handwritten thank you letter. It's being there for people when they're in need, because there's a need there, not because you're trying to sell something, right? So we'll have to talk about some of that stuff offline, but really excited for it. Do you want to name the company you're working for, or are you on a brokerage, or what are you doing?
So Farm Beer is the company. I'm working for Phil Heinrich out of Holdridge.
Phil?
Yep. Yeah. So everybody seems to know Phil. So that's
a good sign, right?
Must be with a good guy, good group. Yeah, and he's got a good team with him. A lot of good people. So I'm excited to get to work and hopefully do well. help some people out.
Well, and I just want to piggyback on what Brett said, because I've seen a lot. When you get older, you see a lot of people go through that transition from athletics to work, and you see some of that stuff that just does translate, that's portable. And you obviously have personality. You obviously have a lot of people skills that, frankly, a lot of people don't have. Athletes always seem to have an advantage because people know their name. You played in the NFL. You were one of the best defensive linemen ever at Nebraska. That's a great deal. But if someone wants to buy insurance from you and has a claim that they need to process through you, that stuff matters not at all.
Right.
So that's where that preparation and that grinding along, but Brett said that personal service really comes into it. And so I think there's no doubt that you're going to be successful doing those sorts of things.
And I would encapsulate in one thing: people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Right.
And I know it sounds kind of cheesy and warm. Everyone gives you but honestly, I've found that to be the absolute truth. They don't care what you know until they know how much you care. So very exciting. So talk to us about your family. You have a newborn.
Yep. So got 2 little boys. One's 2.5. One's about 2.5 weeks. So. Yeah, it's been fun. We came back to the area a couple years ago, got out of Denver, and just wanted to be closer to family, so we moved back to Cozad. Been in the area ever since, and we're going to open up shop there in Cozad as far as the insurance stuff goes. But family's been good. It's a blessing, man. I not being humble by any means, but man, I've been really blessed with all the things I've been able to see, do, and the people I've been able to meet so far in this life. So
this full circle thing. So what's it like? You're in high school in Cozad, correct? Mm-hmm. And you go to Nebraska, have a great career, go to the NFL, and then you come back to Cozad. Does it just strike you sometimes like, what just happened? I'm back here with my family, my 2 kids. I got this business I'm starting into. Like, what just happened? Does that ever hit you?
Oh, yeah, because, when you're in high school in a small town, well, me personally, nothing again. I didn't hate Cozad by any means, but it's just small town. You get a little cabin feverish. Once you're about 17, you're just ready to get out. You're ready to see the world, do stuff. And then, you do, we lived in Houston for, about 4.5 years, Denver, which, it's still close to home. But, we saw enough stuff to realize, Cozad was really good, a really good environment. People were always looking out for me. Even if it weren't my family, someone always had an eye on me, kept me out of trouble, kept my nose clean. If I did something that, little less desirable, say someone came out and called me out on it and said, hey man, you got to get squared away here, so I'm excited for my kids to have that same community where it takes a tribe to raise, so at least knowing that people are looking out for us is going to be awesome.
What a great segue into closing this short podcast we've had with you. Going back to Nebraska Greats Foundation, we are family, right? So you talk about your community of Cozad. You talk about the greater state of Nebraska. We're here to take care of each other. I think it's something that distinguishes us from a lot of other people in other states. Nothing against them. Nebraska really is the good life. And so, Jared, thanks a lot for your time and having a conversation with us. Nebraska Greats Foundation is very simple. We are family. We raise money and awareness for those that are former letter winners from many of the colleges and universities here in Nebraska. And if they have a medical/financial need, we're there to take care of them. We're here from Tom's Dinsdale's Golf, Nebraska Greats, a celebrity foursome here in Riverside and Grand Island, Nebraska. And we thank you for joining our podcast today, and we hope everyone has a great day.
This has been Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast serving the Nebraska Greats Foundation. You can find each episode on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Please give generously to serve Nebraska's former sports heroes in need at negreats.org. And be sure to follow the NE Greats on Facebook and Twitter.